Kia ora, welcome to the South Island of New Zealand. Here you need to manage your family farm well by diversifying your sheep breeds and increasing the wool's value. It's all in a day of sheep farming in Great Western Trail, New Zealand.
And today I'll be teaching you how to play Great Western Trail New Zealand, game designed by Alexander Pfister and published by Eggertspiel.
And hello everyone, it's Stella.
And Tarrant from Meeple University.
Okay, let's go to the classroom.
In Great Western Trail New Zealand, players play the roles of run holders, driving their sheep from the stations on the South Island of New Zealand through the landscape and either delivering them to the North Island city of Wellington, where they can be shipped off as livestock, or shearing them along the way to sell the wool. Players will spend the game upgrading the route by building buildings and clearing hazards, hiring employees, gaining bonuses, and sailing around and upgrading the islands, all in the aim of gaining victory points. There are many ways to gain points, and we'll see these through the video, but in general, anywhere you see an orange shield with a number represents victory points on offer. The timing of the game is tracked by this marker, which moves down the board as players make deliveries to Wellington, and when it drops off the board, the end of the game is triggered. I won't take you step by step through setup, but I'll introduce you to the board and components. This is the path, showing your route from your sheep station to Wellington, and seeded with neutral building tiles and hazards. On the right hand side are two markets, the employee market at the top and the bonus tile market at the bottom. New tiles which will later fill those markets are shown in the top right corner. These numbers are called the Pathfinder track, and this is a track players can advance on through the game. Nearby you'll have the seaboard, seeded with players' ships and harbour master tiles. Each player has a player board and the following components in player colour. There will be 14 sheep cards, 5 Shropshire, 3 Merino, 3 English Leicester and 3 Southdown. Each of these cards has two numbers, a breeding value in the very top and a wool value slightly below. For iconography and rules, these are referred to by their colour and breeding value. This, for example, would be a white 2. These cards are shuffled into a personal deck, and a starting hand is drawn whose size depends on your position in turn order. You'll have a set of 10 double-sided building tiles. These each have an A and B side, and all players can collectively randomise or choose which sides are to be used. But all players must use the same 10 sides. In the centre there are tracks for the 4 different types of employees: shepherds, craftsmen, sailors and shearers. Each player begins with one of each employee, which is pre-printed on the board. You have tracks on the right hand side for certificates, which increase the quality of your livestock, and gold, which can be spent on actions. Along the bottom is a row of storehouses which you can build on the board. The top row describes the 3 steps you'll take on each turn, and the left hand side describes the auxiliary actions, a series of small actions available as you take your turns. All over your board there are spaces covered by these player-coloured discs, and you'll be clearing these discs as you take actions, which will upgrade your player board and give you more options and bonuses. Players have starting money based on their position in turn order, an exchange token and a run holder meeple who begins off the board. Finally, there's a range of other cards which are available, and all cards in the game have the same back as your starting cards, as there is a deck building element to the game. Below the main board is the sheep market and its draw deck. Then nearby you'll have these 9 decks of cards, each headed by a banner which shows its icon. This includes the 4 basic deck building cards: 0 Point Pathfinders, 0 Point Ferries, 0 Point Sheepdogs, and number 3 Purple Romney Sheep. It includes a face-down deck of objective cards, with the bugle, with 4 of them face up in a market. And it includes 4 decks of bonus cards. Each of these is in a deck of like cards, sorted by the number in the bottom right corner. And the game comes with 10 different sets, of which you'll use only 4. These cards are represented by these 4 nautical icons during the game. In other words, if you see the bell icon on the board, it represents whichever card happens to be below the bell banner. Importantly, when gaining these cards, they're represented exclusively by these icons. For example, this is an objective card, but you cannot gain it from the gain objective card icon. You can only gain it from the compass icon. You'll also see that some cards are quite similar. This is a 0-point pathfinder, this is a 1-point pathfinder, and they will have different icons. So now that we've introduced all the components, let's learn how to take your turn. Each turn is resolved in 3 steps. Step A is movement, Step B is actions, and Step C is refilling your hand. If it is your very first turn, then your Step A is broken into these 3 sub-steps. Firstly, if your starting hand is larger than your hand limit, then you must discard down to your hand limit. Secondly, choose any one of your discs which is on a space with white corners and place it on the 0 step of the Pathfinder track. This is now your marker on the track, and you'll be moving it up through the game as you take different actions. Finally, take your run holder and place it onto any one neutral building space. On all subsequent turns, you must move your run holder, a minimum of 1 space, and a maximum based on what is shown on your player board, and this can be upgraded across the course of the game. Movement must be forward in the direction of the arrows along the dotted paths, and often there will be forked paths giving you options for which way to go. Only spaces containing a tile, whether it be a building tile or a hazard tile, count towards your movement. Empty spaces do not. So some options the red player has right now for movement would be 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. You may freely move through or share a space with another run holder. If you move into or land on a space showing either a black or green hand icon, then if able you must pay a number of coins based on what's shown on this tile here. 1 coin for a black hand or 2 for a green. For a hazard tile, that payment will go to the bank, and for another player's building, that payment goes to that player. Make the payments in the order that you arrive at the tiles, and if you run out of money, then you may continue moving without paying the cost. Once you've finished moving, you'll move to Phase B, where you'll take actions at your destination. What you can do depends on the type of destination. Usually you'll be going to either one of your own buildings or to a neutral building, and when there you can do the location actions. That means you may take each of the actions printed on the tile once, as well as any risk action printed on the board next to the tile, and you may take them in any order. If you land on another player's coloured building, or on a hazard tile, then your only option is to take a single auxiliary action, which is one of the smaller actions printed along the left-hand side of your board. You also have this option at your own building or a neutral building. Finally, if you finish your movement in Wellington, then you must resolve the 4 steps of a Wellington delivery before moving your run holder back to the start of the trail. In Phase C, you'll redraw to your hand limit. Across the course of your turn, you may have discarded some cards from your hand as part of actions, and those will have gone into a personal discard pile. Now you redraw off the top of your personal deck until you have as many cards as your current hand limit, which begins at 4 and can be increased across the course of the game. If you need to draw a card and have run out, then shuffle your personal discard pile to form a new deck. Under the game's central theme, you'll be trying to earn money and points from your sheep, and you can do this in 2 ways. By selling the wool or selling them as livestock in Wellington, and that's what we'll look at first. When you land in Wellington, you must resolve the 4 steps of a delivery. Firstly, reveal any number of different sheep cards from your hand. Here I have 2 Shropshire, so I would only be allowed to reveal 1 of them. add up the breeding values of the cards. Here it's 5. To that number, you'll add any certificates that you want to apply. These are a representation of livestock quality. You'll automatically add 1 for any infinite certificates that you've unlocked. And if you've gained any temporary certificates, which you would gain when you resolve this icon, then you may spend any number of those to add that value as well. Suppose here I spent 2 of my 3 certificates, plus these permanent ones, gives me 4 plus 5 for a total breeding value of 9. You'll now gain money equal to that breeding value and discard the cards you revealed. If you've played the prior Great Western Trails, do note this difference. You don't discard your whole hand, only the cards you revealed. Next, you must deliver these livestock to a livestock trading post, represented by these pointed banners. Choose one whose number value is equal to or less than the breeding value of the delivery you just made, and which does not already have one of your coloured discs on it. Other players' discs don't matter. The exception to this are numbers 0 and 21, showing these disc icons. You can have any number of your own discs on those trading posts. For my 9 value delivery, I would be allowed to place in one of these 4 trading posts. Note whether your chosen space has white corners or black corners. And choose any one disc from your player board which has the same colour of corners. If there's an additional cost or benefit next to it, pay that cost or gain that benefit. And to avoid confusion, remember that a red number is always bad for the player taking the action. In this case, it is an extra cost. Then place the disc on the trading post on top of any other discs already present, and pay any costs or gain any rewards printed on that space. Costs or bonuses connected by an arrow unlock when you have a disc on both sides of the arrow. Always be aware that placing on the 0 trading post will grant you £6, but will cost you 8 points at the end of the game. For steps 3 and 4, you'll be choosing tiles from this market and adding them to the board. Step 3 will be either employees or hazards. If you choose an employee, add it top to bottom to its column of the job market. If you choose a hazard, add it to the lowest numbered open space of that hazard type, with the rock falls being along this track and the floods along this track. In both cases, if there's no valid space for the tile you choose, simply remove it from the game. In step 4, you'll always be choosing a new bonus tile, and you'll add it to the next space on the bonus tile market. Tiles are placed top to bottom, left to right, and so in that case this was the last tile placed, so this would be the next place after. When a bonus tile fills the lowest row, it will push this marker down, and if this marker crosses an icon, you'll resolve that icon. In the case of this building icon, you'll find the 4 neutral buildings with a number 1 icon and flip them over to the number 2 side. The other I'll explain later on. When you start a new row, use the column matching your player count. Then replenish these spaces from the A and B bag respectively. Move your run holder to the start of the trail, and move to phase C of your turn. I'll now take you through the actions that you'll find on buildings. An action like this allows you to sell a sheep card from your hand for money. Here it would be a green 2 for £2. Here it would be any sheep card for £2. And here it would be any 2 matching sheep for £2. In each case, discard the cards and gain the money. With this action, you could take a single auxiliary action, and here you could take a double auxiliary action. There are 5 different auxiliary actions, but they're only available if you can see the 1 times icon. And for each action, you can either unlock 1 or 2 of them. To take a single auxiliary action, choose any one action that has at least one of these icons revealed and take that action once. To take a double auxiliary action, choose one action that has both of its discs cleared and then take a double power version of that action. When taking a double auxiliary action, you can instead choose to take one single auxiliary action, but you cannot take two different single auxiliary actions. So for the top action, a single would be worth 1 coin and a double would be worth 2. Here with a single, you could pay 2 coins to move your certificate marker down 1 step. And note here that when you step from 1 to 2, you automatically gain 1 gold. We'll learn what these icons are later, and this one lets you cycle cards through your hand. As a single action, draw 1 card and then discard 1 card. And as a double action, draw 2 cards at once and then discard 2 cards. Note that this is also one of the benefits you can gain by spending an exchange token from your supply, allowing you to draw 2 and then discard 2. Note as well that the other way to use these exchange tokens is to spend 2 of them in order to remove a 1 grey card from your hand from the game entirely and gain 1 gold. Using these tokens for either purpose is not an auxiliary action. These actions allow you to hire new employees. Remember that a red number is bad. If you were to use this space, you could hire 1 employee for its base cost, and if you wanted, a second employee for an additional cost of 3. Choose the type of employee you wish to hire, pay the cost from its lowest cost row, take the token, place it in the leftmost open slot of its row of your player board, and if you cover a bonus, you may optionally resolve that bonus now. This one is simply to gain an exchange token, so you'd always do that. While in some cases taking the extra action has an additional cost, so you must either pay that cost now to take the action or lose the opportunity. With this action, you can buy a bonus tile at no additional cost. So choose any bonus tile from the market, excluding one which is in the row containing the game tracking marker, and pay the cost in its row, so here it would be £6. There are 3 main types of bonus tile. Most of them give you a once-off immediate benefit. Here, for example, I would immediately gain 2 gold and the depicted type of card. In this case, it was a 0-point fairy card, so take that from the supply and add it to your discard pile. This is where all new cards that you gain go through the game. In some cases, that immediate benefit has an additional cost, and you must pay it now, or you can't take the tile. The second type of bonus is one which gives you an ongoing benefit. Here it would be a permanent certificate. Either way, keep these gold backgrounded tiles near your player board. Many are also worth end of game victory points. The third is the black background wild employee. This always costs an extra gold and may be placed in any one of your 4 employee columns, behaving as if it were that employee for all purposes for the rest of the game, and possibly unlocking immediate benefits. This action lets you construct or upgrade one of your buildings. To construct a new building, choose one of your available buildings for which you have sufficient craftsmen to build it. Right now I have 2, so only these 4 buildings would be open to me. Having chosen the building, now pay the cost based on how many craftsmen you've had to employ. For this action, or this bonus, the cost would be £2 per craftsman, so here 4. Had I been building off this bonus, it would have been 2 times 1, a cost of 2. Now place the tile on the main board. It may go into any empty building space, irrespective of your run holder's location, with the exception that if the space shows the bird with a number, then you must have at least reached that step on the Pathfinder track to be allowed to build there. Right now, red could build on this 2, but not on this 7. Blue could build here and would gain this 2 gold as an additional reward. If you build on a fork that shares its spaces with hazards, then you'll get an extra risk action, but be at the risk of having to pay these hands on your way to your building. The other way to take this action is to upgrade one of your buildings. Suppose I wanted to upgrade this 2 craftsperson building. I need enough of the employee to make up the difference in cost. So with 2 craftspeople, I could go up to a 3 or a 4 craftsperson building. I would spend the cost of the number of craftspeople involved, replace the building on the board, and then remove the upgraded building from the game entirely. With this action, you can buy sheep at the sheep market. Buying sheep requires shepherds, and you can think of each of your shepherds as representing an action point for this action. The sheep available for purchase are face up in the market, and the coin and action point cost is printed on the board. So with my 4 shepherds, for example, I could use one of them to spend £3 to gain this Dorset horn. Then I could spend 2 of them to spend £2 to gain 1 Lincoln or Corriedale, and then use my last shepherd to spend £9 on a Ryland or Hampshire. All newly gained cards go to your discard pile as usual, and if you buy a Suffolk, you also get an exchange token as a bonus. If you're not happy with the available options, you can, as many times as you wish, spend one of your shepherds to draw 2 new cards from the draw deck into the market. And each time the game marker crosses one of these 2 icons, you will refill the sheep market to its original size. The ship icon with the arrows represents the sail action. Each ship icon is its own action, and the number on it is the number of movement points you have for that action. So this bonus would be a single sail action of 5 movement points. This is a sail action with movement points equal to your number of sailors. This double auxiliary action would be £2 for a single sail action of 2 points. And this tile grants you 2 separate sail actions, one with 1 movement point and one with points equal to your sailors. With each movement point, you may sail 1 space along a dotted line. Multiple players may occupy or move through the same space. Note that this board has 1 big loop and a number of dead ends. When you're in a space with a whirlpool, you may spend 1 movement point and forego any remaining movement points for this sail action to upgrade the adjoining harbour. There are 3 types of harbour: small, medium and large. You may only upgrade each harbour once, and multiple players may upgrade the same harbour. To upgrade a small harbour, pay the cost, take a storehouse from anywhere on your player board, gain any immediate benefit that you've unlocked by taking adjoining storehouses from a single bonus, place the storehouse on the board, and then gain any immediate benefit printed on that harbour. This will also grant some endgame victory points. To upgrade a medium harbour, you'll place a disc. Take note of the colours of the corners, choose a matching coloured disc, pay any cost, place the disc, and gain any immediate reward. If there are any discs already there, simply add yours to the stack. At the point that you upgrade the medium harbour, if nobody has yet taken the Harbour Master token, you may appoint a Harbour Master. Choose any one rightmost employee tile from its row, taking it and uncovering its bonus to possibly be used again. Put it on the board in place of the Harbour Master token, which you then place beside your board. The top half is an immediate or ongoing benefit, and the bottom half is a way that you can score victory points at the end of the game. A large harbour is one with space for storehouses and a trading post banner. When you upgrade this harbour, all you do is place a storehouse. However, on future deliveries to Wellington, this trading post is now available as a place where you could deliver your livestock as long as you met the minimum number requirement. It's when you place this disc as part of your delivery that you gain the additional benefit or points printed at the top of that trading post. Any action showing the X wool equals X pounds icon allows you to shear some sheep and sell the wool. Here you can shear 1 sheep. Here you can shear 2 different sheep. And here you can shear a number of different sheep equal to the number of shearers that you've employed. reveal from your hand the sheep that you're shearing and add up their collective wool values. So here it's 5. To that, add any permanent wool that you've unlocked. So here another 3 for a total of 8. Gain that much money and then discard the sheep. You may now optionally deliver that wool to one of the 5 wool trading posts. These are the ones showing the wool icon and the round base rather than the pointed base. These 3 at the dock are available from the start of the game, and these 2 large harbours need to be upgraded to access them. As with delivering livestock to a trading post in Wellington, you may only deliver to a trading post whose number is equal or lower than the amount of money you just made, and where you have not previously delivered wool, although it doesn't matter if other players have. The exception is this 13 space, which can hold any number of your discs. Like any livestock delivery, pay any costs, gain any immediate rewards, and place a disc with the appropriate coloured corners. Once again, placing a disc when shearing sheep is optional, as distinct from placing a disc when you deliver to Wellington, which is mandatory. With this action, you could spend any number of your shearers to draw and then discard a card before using the remaining shearers to make a wool delivery. This action lets you pay £5 to clear a hazard tile off the board. Choose any one hazard tile, remove it, keep it beside your player board for its points, and gain the card depicted, either a sheepdog or a fairy, into your discard pile. This action lets you move your run holder again. This allows you to chain more buildings together or move more quickly along the trail. In this case, I'd land here, I'd take this sail action, and then I'd move up to 2 more spaces down the trail and resolve all the actions at my new destination as well. You can chain multiple such buildings together on the same turn. Each player's number 1 tile grants bonuses for having buildings in lush grassland spaces. That's ones showing this icon overlapping images like this. You would count up your lush grassland buildings anywhere on the board, and this creates competition for those spaces. An action like this gives you a choice. Here I could either gain an objective card, taking 1 card from the face-up objective marker to your discard pile and replenishing from the deck, or advance 2 steps on the Pathfinder track. There are some bonuses to unlock along the way. When you reach step 4 or 6, depending on your player count, you take an extra step marker, adding it to your player board, and when you reach step 11, you'll either flip that same marker to the 2-step side, or flip this token, which means you won't have to pay any hand costs any longer. Once you've maxed the track, any further steps are worth £1. There are many actions or bonuses which grant you gold, which you track on your board. The gold track features the icons of the 4 bonus cards, and as a free action in any location during phases A or B, you can spend gold to gain the matching type of card. That now brings us to looking at how these deck building cards work. When you start your turn, you may have some of them in your hand, and they take up spaces which sheep would otherwise have taken up. Before or after any movement or action taken in phases A or B, you may play deck building cards from your hand to your discard pile to resolve the immediate effect. Here it would be to gain 1 certificate, and then replace it with another card drawn from your deck. If you keep gaining deck building cards, then you can keep resolving their effects until you either are out of deck building cards or want to hang on to any of them for later. As indicated by this icon, you are not allowed to play a deck building card during phase C. You may draw it in phase C, but will have to wait until your next turn to play it. The other type of card you'll come across is the objective card, and each of these contains 4 pieces of information: an action, an objective, a positive number of points, and a negative number of points. For any objective card you gain, if you meet its requirements, here it would be having 2 shearers and 1 flood hazard tile, you will gain the positive number of points. However, you won't necessarily lose the negative points if you fail to meet the objective. Once an objective card has cycled through your deck and into your hand, you're not allowed to freely discard it. That means it fills up a space that could be held by a sheep card. If you wish to discard it, you'll need to activate some sort of other discard ability. However, you may, during phases A or B, again before or after a movement or action, choose to play this objective card from your hand into a face-up display to use the once-off action in its top left corner. Doing this activates the risk of scoring the negative points. Any objective cards that you've played for their actions will lose you points if you fail to achieve them during the game. Objectives that remain in your circulating deck do not have this risk of negative points. The game end is triggered when, during a delivery to Wellington, the game end marker is pushed off the board. The player who caused this takes this marker, and all other players get one more turn. Players skip phase C on their final turns. Now count up your final scores. Leftover money is worth 1 point per £5. Each of your buildings on the board scores points as printed in its top right corner. You score points for the highest shield that you've reached or crossed on the Pathfinder track. Score points or lose points for all of your discs on trading posts, including trading posts on the seaboard. Score points for small harbours and medium harbours that you've upgraded. However, be careful not to score any large harbours where you've placed a storehouse but not made a delivery. These points would not count. Score the points printed on your bonus tiles and hazard tiles. If you have a harbour master, evaluate the objective on the lower half and score points for that. Gather up all the cards in your hand, deck and discard pile, remembering to keep any objectives that you played for their actions face up and separate. Sort through all of these cards and separate out the cards that are worth points, the cards that aren't worth points, and the objective cards that you didn't play. Score all of the points from your cards worth points. Then evaluate all of your objectives, score points for the ones that you've met, and lose points for the ones that you've played and failed to meet. Each item you've achieved in the game can only count towards one objective, so I would need 4 shearers to be able to meet both of these cards. This includes your pre-printed starter and any wild employees who are in your shearers row. The Pathfinder track is similar. I'd need to have reached step 10 to meet both of these objectives. Score any points you've unlocked on your player board, which can be 3 points for clearing this disc, 4 points for each filled employee row, and any points unlocked on your storehouse row. And finally, gain 5 points if you triggered the end of the game. The player with the highest score wins, and if tied, victory is shared. And that's how to play Great Western Trail New Zealand.
Thank you so much for watching. Your like and comments are much appreciated. Subscribe to see what's coming and let us know what games you've been playing. See you next time.